I stumbled onto a major company conspiracy.
What you stumbled upon goes way deeper than you could ever fathom.
What the hell are you talking about?
Listen and learn. Listen and learn. Listen and learn.
You gonna learn today?
I offer them whatever help I can.
Pay attention, son. This is for your own good.
You know, I believe that people are controlling us, man. I think that there's people that own our bodies. Us, our kids, all of us. And I think that this goes back to when we're birthed and when we're born, they create a straw man and they create a corporate entity, you, and that the United States is a company. And I think that we're owned. I think people buy and sell our bodies on the stock market. And I think that's an important issue because if somebody's owning us, we should know who they are. We should make sure that they're good people, right? Because if they're not, we're in trouble. Right. And if we don't start getting hip to this stuff now, to the possibility that we could all be slaves to a corporation, slaves to a privately owned bank or a privately owned company. This is serious stuff. These are the most serious allegations to the most powerful people on the planet. Why does nobody care?
Why does nobody care? What a perfect segue to say hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Why is Conspiracy, episode 7. Believe it or not, we are here. I'm joined today by my co-host. You know who it is. I got Monster in the building. I got Grillz in the building. We're having a great time today. How you doing today, gentlemen?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. Grillz?
I'm doing good.
Very thought-provoking things you had to say there. Because, you know, for a long time, and Mom, I'm going to come check you on this one, but when I was a kid, she told me she owned my whole body, and she will put it back where it came from at the drop of a dime. So you're telling me my mom was wrong this whole time, Grillz?
Well, it's almost like she had a lease.
Okay.
Right? You know, we don't own anything in this country. The bank does. So there's a whole world of how banks and how money actually operates.
Does it, when you say that, one of the terms that comes to mind is economic slavery. Kind of in that wheelhouse, but not exactly that, right? What you're talking about.
Well, let me go back a little bit, and I think Monster can elaborate as far as the facts. But as far as I know, that in the late 1800s, a group of very powerful people got together, and they created a company called United States, or the United States Corporation. And somewhere along the lines, they decided that they were going to use the people as collateral behind the dollar. And that every person coming in to this world needs to have a birth certificate, Social Security, and they all need to be tracked and identified. But it's deeper than just that. You have to go back to the whole concept of the law of the land and the law of the sea.
Okay.
Which is the Maritime Admiralty Law.
Yep.
The Uniform Commercial Code.
The Uniform Commercial Code.
And everybody operates under the same commercial code. So that's how everybody's able to do business with each other. And everybody's, you know, supposed to pay each other because they're operating under the same commercial code. And this is where we get the word commercial from the word commerce. And commerce is the buying and selling of goods,
right,
and money and transactions, right? So it's the cash flow that keeps everything going.
Gotcha. So I was going to say, Mons, you know,
I think an important thing to say right off the bat is that people should not believe any of this at all.
Right.
Like literally start off the baseline. Like these guys are totally full crap, and go out and research this for yourself. Because you're going to find out right away that we are not lying about this, and we are trying to let people know that some of the ideas that have been with us since we were born. Like, for example, when I was born, I thought I lived a fairy tale. I thought we were free and that, you know, we had all these rights and this, that, and the third. And so I found out I needed a license to fish, and I needed a license to drive, and I needed a license for this. And even when I was a paper boy, I needed a license to work. You know, and that's when I, you know, started figuring it out. And then eventually I figured out that they have given every single person a number. Like you said, the economic slavery portion of it. I mean, everybody is aware that this country was founded and born on the idea of slavery and using slave labor to build the country. And we broke free of that during the Civil War, and a period of time went on, and they realized that they're going to have to enslave us some other way. And that's when the whole notion of the Social Security numbers and the idea that you're just a stock certificate on the stock market. See, a lot of us have our original birth certificates, right? But if you were to request a copy of your birth certificate, the number, the serial number that you were given is now printed in red. And the reason for that is because that's your actual number on the stock market. So another element of it is when you're born, they record your weight. So, and that's the origins of the term worth your weight in gold. Because that weight that you recorded, that's what your value is in gold for your stock when it originates. And the corporation of the United States of America is now borrowing money. The trillions of dollars that we owe it to the Gabe's, the monsters, the Grillz of the country, because we're the stockholders.
It's a very fascinating thought to think on those terms. So let's elaborate a little bit on that, because if I'm watching this and I'm just hearing you guys casually say that the United States is a company, every being in the United States is just a number and basically can be represented on the stock exchange, bought and sold.
Yep.
That's what we just said, right? So comment below right now what you think, and then I'd like to know what you think after they're done explaining what they mean. So, Grillz, let's go a little bit back to you.
Okay.
Coming from that perspective.
Right.
Tell me.
Okay, there's two types of laws on this earth. There's the law of the land, which is civil law. And then there is the law of the high seas, which is maritime law, the Uniform Commercial Code. Okay, so when this United States company was founded, they realized, they decided that every human being coming into this country that's born, that's coming out of their mother's water, is operating under maritime law, law of the sea, because they're coming out of their mother's water. Now let me go back and explain this. When a ship pulls in from sea, it's called at its berth, right? Yep. And it pulls up to the dock. And if you're bringing items from another country to come and sell into America, you're going to have a certificate of manifest. How much does the item weigh? What color is it? What's the item number? Where did it come from? But it's being moved commercially on the high seas, okay? This concept is what they do with us humans. We come out of our mother's water, okay? Your mother's birth canal.
Okay.
So you have to be birthed, right? You're birthed, and then you pull up to the doc, the doctor,
Right.
and they give you a certificate of manifest. Now what they also do is the day that you're born, you get your birth certificate, right? Your mother's name, your father's name. But then they create a separate document that's called your straw man. A straw man is like a scarecrow. He's dead. He's not alive. He's dead. And from what I believe is that they attach the afterbirth material to that straw man, because they believe that anything that is coming from the mother is, it's like a life. It's something that you can make money off of. So what they do is, we are employees to this privately owned company called United States. And this is why they're able to tax us. They're able to take us to court. They're able to do a bunch of things with us because we are part of the company. There's certain things you can't do at Sears or at Walmart or at the Home Depot when you work there. And there's something called in-house security. Well, they'll come and they'll hold you until the authorities come. But it's an in-house security. So the in-house security for the United States Corporation is the United States Army. So there's a lot of business going on with our bodies. And like Monster said, the red numbers at the bottom of your birth certificate, those numbers are a security on the stock exchange. See, I didn't know this, but I looked it up. I looked it up. And when I looked it up, I found out that it was true. My birth certificate was a stock on the New York stock market. Somebody is buying and trading my body. Somebody owns my body. And it's not just me, obviously. So I think this is very serious.
I mean, it all sounds super fantastical. Like when you start hearing about these things for the first time, you dismiss them right away. You're like, oh, that's totally nutso. And that's why I'm going to go back to the idea of go research this yourself. Because I'm going to go back to what you just mentioned, the court. Even that. What happens when you're in court? You're on the docket. Once again, it's related back to maritime law. And if people want to say that this isn't true, then how come everything is related back to one another? You know, we just used the example of a court. How about a bank? So you have a bank that holds their currency. But in maritime situation, a bank is both sides of a river, which controls the current. This is not, it's not coincidence. These are purposely, and these words have been manifested now for millennium. And this goes back to the Illuminati and control of the secret societies, and you know, even on down to, we're on the law of the land, right? When we're on the land, when you're on a ship, you have to take leave from the ship to come to the land, because now you're under the law of the land. You're no longer under Admiralty law. So, but take notice of when the president speaks at the podium, and the flags are draped a specific way, and gold tassels hang from those flags, right? That signifies that they're speaking under Admiralty law, under the maritime law, on land, because nobody else is allowed to display those gold tassels.
I never knew anything about the gold tassel before. You know anything about that?
Yes, he's absolutely correct.
What is it about?
Well, it represents Admiralty law, the maritime. You're operating under maritime law, law of the sea. That's why it's in the court, because why do you go to court? You play basketball in the court. You're putting the ball back in the other man's court. Jordan Maxwell, I have the book right here, but he speaks a little bit about it in this book. But Jordan Maxwell has really deciphered all of this. But there is a concept to the whole idea that when you go to court, you know, they're putting the ball in the other man's court. It's a game. It's nothing personal. It's just business. The judges don't care who's right, who's wrong, who did what. Somebody's got to pay. It's always about the money. It's never about justice. It's never about what's right. It's always about the money.
Of course, yeah.
And because they are operating not under the law of the land, but the law of the high seas. That's how they're able to have these shady contracts with us, and people are able to own our bodies, because we're not sovereign. The Native Americans were sovereign, free men of the land.
Yeah.
There is a difference. So when people say, oh, I'm an American, by law, nobody is an American except the Native Americans. You are a United States citizen by law. Now, you could call yourself anything you want. You could call yourself an American. You could call yourself a caveman. But at the end of the day, by law, you're a United States citizen if you were born in this country.
Right, right. It's so fascinating to think like that, because like to Monster's point before, when you're saying, you know, you feel like you're free. You're your own entity. You have your own thoughts. I can do whatever I want, you know. But then to think about it this way is kind of like, it's a little unnerving, a little bit.
It is.
You know what I mean? And I can see people watching this right now going, what? You know?
And I agree with that. And I agree with them for thinking that way, because it sounds fantastical, like I said before.
Yeah.
But when you start researching it, and when I say researching it, I mean going after the actual facts. This is stuff that you can look up, because these are laws and these are codes that have been put into place. And like I just mentioned about the flag, and you know, you can't hide these things. I mean, just to put it forth, the whole idea of the law of the land and the Admiralty maritime law being connected, the words are connected. Dealership, apprenticeship, leadership. They're all related to a ship.
Right.
On purpose.
Yeah.
This is not a mistake. You know, like, for example, if you go on Amazon right now, which I recommend people don't, and buy local. But if you do and buy something online, what do? They ship it to you by a truck, not a ship. Why isn't it called trucked? Because it's related back to the Universal Commercial Code, which is the reason why they did all this to begin with, because things weren't always the way they are now. People that live now, they get used to flying on an airplane, being able to go to Ohio in 4 hours from now. I mean, it didn't always used to be like that. You know, you used to have to be able to trust people more, and they used to have to be able to like leave goods someplace, and somebody else would leave the money or whatever you're trading, and things just had to be uniform and correct so that everybody knew how to conduct business. You know, I mean, when, for example, say a diamond dealer, right? They make transactions that are worth millions of dollars, never once counting the money or anything, or even worried about it because of the, you know, what we're talking about right now. They give them the diamonds. Later on, the other people give them the money, or however the arrangement is made. There's never any worry about it. The other party doesn't even check the diamonds to make sure that they're legit. The other party doesn't check the money to make sure it's legit because they know it's going to be legit because they've shook hands on this 200 years ago. And it really goes back to when they moved the money off of the gold standard. And that's when the corporation really took hold in America. And that's because when I was born, it was optional. Well, not optional to get the birth certificate, or, you know, to get the Social Security number. Now it's not. You get it. It's issued to you when you're born. You know, my Social Security card wasn't issued on the day I was born. I had to apply for it, you know. But now they just issue it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
The reason why the ship is important is because every ship is what gender?
Female.
Female, correct. The reason why is because only a female can deliver something into this world, can bring something into this world, as far as another life. Or so
the cargo area of a ship is also called a berth.
Right.
And that's
when the sailor gets off the ship, he's given liberty to leave. That's why we have the Statue of Liberty. It's not the Statue of Freedom. It's the Statue of Liberty. Okay, you have the permission to go to the bathroom. You have I'm allowing you to go do that. So yes, America does have many different ideas and capabilities as far as what the people are able to do. But don't ever get it twisted. There's still a manipulation and shady deals. You can love the country. I love the country as far as the people and the land and what we stand for as far as we're the first country ever that was actually free, a free nation. And I think we've lost that. We're not free no more. We've lost that. And if you ask certain people, they might tell you that we've never been free. So, but there are things we could do in this country that we can't do in other countries. That doesn't mean that this country is squeaky clean. That doesn't mean that we don't address the issues that the corrupt leaders of this country have to be held accountable of. We could all get along, the people, but we need to hold these leaders accountable for making America, the people, look bad. Because us, the people, we're nothing like these leaders. And the people around the world are nothing like their leaders. And this is what I believe.
Got you. I just, I feel like more so than any of our other episodes, this episode and this topic in particular isn't really, there's not a conspiracy here.
No, there isn't.
You know what I mean? It's one of the more black and white things we've talked about on the show since we started doing this, right? So to me, this segment's more like educational. So I just want to take the moment to, again, you know, encourage everybody, go do your research. We'll have some links down below, like we always do, so you can go ahead and get started on it if you just need a stepping stone to go on your mission. But, you know, comment below on what you're thinking about all this stuff. But definitely go out and take what you're hearing now, and just, if it intrigues you, go learn about it. We're just like tipping the iceberg over here. You know, we're only seeing, you know, a little bit of the whole story. You could really dig into it. One of the fascinating things about what we just talked about was when Monster started to touch on, you know, the words and how, you know, the words seem to be reused and repurposed, but meaning almost the same thing, right? The whole thing about the bank and the currency, and bank and currency in water and in finance, right?
Right.
Like you talked about birth and birth, you know? Those things are very fascinating to me too. So let's take a little dive into like the words and spells and things like that.
Okay. I'll elaborate and then he can continue. But
yeah, because I'm gonna have questions.
Well, first of all, when you're talking about words and spells and curses, first of all, the word curse can be used, oh, that's a curse word, oh, that's a bad word, you said a curse word, or, oh, he's trying to put a curse on me. He's trying to put a spell on me. And it's the same thing with the word spell. Somebody can say, hey, can you spell my name out? Or you can say, hey, that guy's trying to put a spell on me. So, meaning that words are divinely created a long time ago to get your mind to accept certain things and certain ideas. Now, the English language has words that can be used to describe or have different meanings or describe different things. For instance, the word weak. I'm going to see you next week, Gabe. I'll see you next week, monster, right? Or, my body's feeling weak right now. Or, wow, that guy looked weak over there. Is he all right? So, you know, you think about the week, right? Every week goes by, and people feel weak. And by the time the weekend comes, they feel weakened, right? There is a whole world of this out there, of these different ways that words can be used to manipulate the mind and also to kind of, you know, play on you a little bit.
Yeah. I think it's great. Like, you know, what do you have to add to that, Mark? 'Cause I know you know a little bit more.
I just had an image in my head of when he was just talking there of like witches and the idea that people would think that they would put spells on them. But where did their spells come from? Their books, which were the words in the books that they recited, which goes back to the spelling, you know. And just to elaborate on what he was saying, in reality, there's two different things when it comes to like profanity. You have swearing and then you have cursing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Swearing is more related to taking an oath and promising to be honest.
I swear to God.
Correct. Or it's like, you know, when you would go to court, you would, you know, swear on the Bible to, you know, swear in.
Right.
Cursing is more of you're wishing evil upon somebody by manifesting either God or spirit into words to then harm them in some way, shape, or form. And profanity, as we know it now, is sort of both of those mixed together, hidden so that you're getting cursed by the words being said and you don't even realize it. And it, you know, I think it was episode 2 that we talked about this, where it lowers your frequency and your vibrations, you know, and you're purposely bombarded with this crap nonstop.
Yeah.
You know, where it's profanity is the word I'll use for both of them mixed together, where it's just an onslaught of, you know, people think of the curse words, you have your major, you know, shit, fuck, you know, all these ones here, but damn and goddamn is really one of the most powerful curses that there is out there. There's countries out there that they'll print stuff in the paper like, this cunt said this without even thinking of it, but if you put goddamn, they might come to your house and pull you out into the street and kill you.
Right.
Because they think that you cursed them to their deity, really, you know what I mean? And not a lot of people think about this kind of stuff because we're bombarded with it constantly. And it's one of the tools of suppression, so, you know, they want to hide it behind the curtain.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to me when it comes to words and the uses of there within, right? Casual conversation happens, maybe literature's going down.
Which way did you go yesterday to get to work? Or that witch is trying to catch a spell on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that sort of thing. So like, why do you think that is? Why do you think the double meanings are there?
To be honest, I think that the beings, whatever runs this world, is a lot smarter than us.
And like we said, there was a great question for Miriam that we had on last week. You know, what's the end goal? Why that? What's the end goal?
Well, the end goal is to have total control over the human mind and the human body. Now, if you already own the body, all you have left is the soul and the mind, right?
That's exactly right.
So that's what we're dealing with right now. It's a war for the mind and the spirit and the soul, and because they already got our bodies,
right?
They already have that, and that that all you can you could prove that just by typing in the numbers at the bottom of your birth certificate on the stock market.
Yep.
And what's going on is that there's a difference between state of New York and New York State. They're two different things.
Talk about it.
Well, I think people should go and find out about it. But there is a difference. And what the difference is, I know, but people can find that out for themselves. What is the difference? What is the difference between the state of New York and New York State? And when you get your mail, when you get anything in all capital letters, that is the corporate entity the corporate item. You know, if you work for a store and they have pillows, they're selling merchandise, they're selling sheets, all of those products, all of those things you're going to sell out the store, they have to have numbers, they have to have labels, sparkles. So they do the same thing with us. We're humans. There's people that own, they got to keep track of all these humans and people that they're owning. They have to keep track of us.
You've mentioned that before to me, the whole thing about your name being capitalized on certain documents versus your name being spelled, grammatically correct.
On your birth certificate, your name is all capital letters because that is what we talked about before. That's your certificate of stock and what your value is to the loan that they're going to take out against your name.
What we were saying was, to Grill's point about...
That's why Jay-Z said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a business man, because you're a walking corporation almost.
That's a great
You're not
point.
Just a corporate, you're not just a human resource. You're not just a product.
Point.
You're also a corporation in yourself. That's why your name is in all capital letters. That's why when you die, you're a corpse. Because when you're alive, you're a corporation.
And this is also why that you're a product of the state until you're 18 years old. You have parents, and they're your parents, but the state actually controls what happens to you. The state can step in and take you away from your parents.
Right. If they don't think you're doing
and
a good
a lot
job,
of people don't understand that this is all related to that. I think it was last year there was a little girl in England who was on life support and they wanted to pull the plug, but the state wouldn't allow it. I could have it wrong. It might be vice versa. The parent, they wanted to. I believe what it was the state wanted to pull the plug on the life support, but the parents didn't, and it went to court back and forth, and they lost because they actually don't have control over this, because over there it's called the City of London Corporation. That's what in Britain the people are enslaved to. And this goes back to the 3 stars. Because the Vatican, the Pentagon, and the bank or the City of London Corporation. Those are you have the militant part of it, you have the financial part of it, and then you have the religious part of it. And that's the trifecta of what this is really all about. All those 3 entities are related, and all of this, the corporation and everything is related to those entities operating together.
So this would be, that's the, I guess you could call the triangle or the pyramid that controls us, those 3 stars.
Everything in 3s.
Right.
And that's part of what they are. And to go backwards, talking about the words and stuff, this goes many levels deep. Many, many levels. Like, that's what I'm saying. Do the research here. Once you get done researching this, you're going to be really surprised here. Because even like a port on that computer right there, right? That's related to what? The porthole on the ship. Yep. But in actuality, it relates back to the French word port, which has an E on the end of it, which means door.
Right.
So the door is now related to plugging into your computer. Right? So, I mean, so many words, and it's also related back to the Maritime Law. So many things when you start getting into this, all are related to this. And I really implore every person out there to go look it up and then start seeing for themselves. And back to what I was saying a minute ago, if you don't believe about the profanity and the swearing and the cursing being a thing and being a tool to suppress you, then how come they bleep the stuff out on the radio?
Right.
Only during certain time frames when the traditional, normal people are listening to the radio. At nighttime, 10 o'clock on, they don't care. So, 5 in the morning, you can play profanity on the radio. But not in that time frame when the business type people are going to be listening to it and operating, because they don't want to have the curse words suppressing them. And I'm not joking. That's, I mean...
I get it. No, I get it. When You know,
All the way on down to something I just thought about just now that I never thought about before.
What's that?
So the FCC controls the Federal Communications Commission. FCC controls that, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the UCC, right? Mm-hmm. So all of these things seem to happen in threes: DEA, FBI, CIA. I never even put this together before.
That's a good point.
Like all of these acronyms are all threes also.
Right. Yeah.
Which I think I just blew my own mind right now, actually. I just learned myself something, talked myself into it.
There you go.
Yeah, man. I've always been fascinated by the fact that words can be used to manipulate people, and all you gotta do is say them the right way. You know, what am I saying? I'm saying like simple things when it comes down to just human behavior, right? You want to procreate, you want to get girls as a dude, you know. It doesn't matter how you look. Free game from Gabriel, right? It doesn't matter how you look. It matters how you speak, smell, and sound. If you speak, smell, and sound good, you have a way better chance of landing the person that you want landing. You know what I mean? I haven't had to practice this stuff in over 20 years. Shout out Angie. You know what I mean? But it's true facts. The way you talk to somebody can totally manipulate the way they're going to feel about you, and you had never done anything to them physically or anything.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Haven't made their life uneasy in any way other than the words you just spoke.
It's the spell.
It's a spell, right? Interviewing. When you go on a job interview, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's all about how you communicate your abilities. Probably most people applying for that job can do the job that they're applying for. I'll say 70% of those people are probably capable of doing the job. The other 3 are just, I just need a job. You know what I mean? But 7 of those 10 probably know how to do that job. It's just a matter of how I'm going to communicate it to you that you're going to say, yeah, I want you. You know what I mean? And I talk a lot about because I do a lot of public speaking, you know, and I always talk about engagement. I like to get engagement with the crowd right off the bat, right? Mm-hmm. So I embrace the energy in that room in a way that it's comfortable for them to consume me.
Right.
I'm endearing myself to these people, you know, and I've come up with a way to do it. You know, I've never met anybody in that room before. I don't know who these people are, but I know in a general sense, all I got to do is 1, 2, and 3, and you're pretty much going to listen to whatever I have to say from that point on, right?
Well, a lot of that is also psychology and body language.
Right, that's true.
If you're going to, right, there's, you got these guys that they study body language. They study females and what they like and what they're all about. And you'll get these guys that'll, you know, pickup artists that can go and get any girl. They can be with any girl they want because they know exactly what to tell them. They know exactly how to touch them, how to look them in their eyes, and so there's definitely a lot to that as well. And you know, people go to the magic shows or people go to see magicians, and they pay money to watch somebody trick them. You know, nobody's really pulling a rabbit out of the hat, rabbit out the hat and really, you know, making stuff disappear.
Yeah.
It's a trick.
Right.
They're tricking you. There's fake magic and there's real magic. The fake magic is when you go to the carnival, you go to the circus, and the magician is waving the magic wand, right? I think we spoke about this.
Right, we back to Hollywood.
That's the fake magic. But the real magic is this, I guess you could call it, this energy that the elitists and these black magicians tap into. Now there's the dark side, there's the black, the rituals, right? The dark side of it, and there's also the positive side to it. But there's also this, like I said, this hidden dimension. And the Uniform Commercial Code, Maritime Law, us being slaves to a company or human resources to a company, this is very important. This also goes back to that magic that operates. It's like a magical world where they're able to fool us and make us think so many different things. But when it comes down to it, when you actually get technical with a lot of this, you start figuring out stuff you didn't know before, and you start seeing the importance, of what the implications are and how significant it is to everything that's going on. Because unless we know what the core root of everything, of all our problems comes from, we're never going to figure anything out. People say, wash your hands and put on your mask. And that's it. That's not enough information for me to protect my family. I need to know where this virus came from, who started this virus, did anybody know about this virus beforehand?
How does it mutate? Why is there 8 different
right,
strands?
and now that now that people now that people are starting to know
The
people,
minutia.
Yeah, so I mean, it's serious, and I for anybody that has the coronavirus, anybody that's going through it, anybody that knows a family member is going through it, my thoughts are with them, and I hope that us as the human race can get through this. And I know this is a tough time, and I want everybody to not lose their humanity, to stick together with each other, but at the same time, I think we need to question this, and we need to question everything as far as who are these people that run the planet? Who are these bankers? How do we know that the Pope's a good person? How do we know he's a good man? How do we know that this royal family in England, how do we know that they're good people? We need to figure out how these people are connected to us and who owns us and what we could do about it.
I love it, man. I love it. I want to touch on a couple of things. You want to add something to that, Munch?
No, I actually was just thinking I agree with that completely.
Okay.
That was words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, there's some, with this episode, we were going to talk about all this stuff last week.
Right.
It's very closely related to the whole music thing when we start talking about spells and stuff, in my mind, right? And I want to talk a little bit about that. Definitely want to give that a little light today. But before we do that, let's do a little rapid fire. I'm starting to really like this segment. And to Monster's point earlier, we were talking about what to talk about. And he's like, man, this is kind of like your thing. Like, you kind of surprised us. And I'm like, so I like that. I'll give you guys a softball right now, because we talked about it. But Monster, what's your general take on Bermuda Triangle and things that happen there, and the overall general consensus that you shouldn't fly over it?
I mean, I've been fascinated by it almost my whole life since, I remember when we were younger, we talked about the mysteries books. They used to come out like encyclopedias, and we used to look through those and stuff, and that always fascinated me in there. Yep. To me, there has to be some sort of scientific explanation to the whole thing. I don't believe it's any kind of like vortex or anything. I don't have any proof here because I'm not a researcher in this field, but my gut feeling on it is that maybe it's like related to like magnetism of the earth of some kind, or something related to that. But I mean, it definitely
there's something
freaky. I mean, hundreds of planes and ships have gone missing in that area. So
and when you're around it as a captain of a ship or a plane, it's commonplace to lose radio contact and all that, and they're okay with it. They're like, oh, it's because we're here.
And a lot of it's been reported by official channels, the Navy, and you know what I mean. This is not
like, thumbs up.
People out in boats.
What's your take on Bermuda Triangle?
I think there's something under the ocean.
You do?
Oh yeah, there's something under there that's causing things to disappear up there.
Okay.
Maybe go somewhere else.
Okay.
Maybe like a vortex to
like
a parallel dimension.
I was gonna say like an underwater black hole.
Well, it's possible. Well, the thing is that people think because we live on our planet's name is Earth that paranormal things are impossible. But science has never proven that paranormal things can't happen.
Right.
Science has never proven that a vortex to another parallel reality is impossible. No, nobody's ever proven that. Nobody's ever scientifically proven that. So it's very possible that there could be something under the ocean that's causing planes to disappear, go somewhere.
I mean, I will say this also, that we do know more about space than we do about the ocean. I mean, that's right on our planet. It's like the last frontier.
And I know this wasn't Bermuda. I don't think it was. But wasn't there a Malaysian Airlines or a Malaysian flight that disappeared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gone. Like 220-something people
Yeah,
gone.
that's interesting.
Yeah, MH flight, 370, I believe, was that one.
Yeah.
I often joke that that's going to make an appearance in the encore of all this crap that's happening right now. Like, it's going to come spraying like the disinfectant over New York City or something like that, in some ridiculous encore of this whole. I don't know. I mean, we're living this nightmare right now. I just never really thought it would ever actually happen. So it's difficult to parse out what really is going on. I wish I could travel 15 years into the future and read the books that are written about what's occurring,
A lot of people like to do that.
Because I think it goes back to what he was saying a minute ago about how it relates to everything that we're talking about, and how we need to know who these people are and what their intentions are here.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Information is very loose these days, and we're in the age of where it can travel in 15 seconds.
I know. Mm-hmm. What's your take on the lost city of Atlantis?
Well, I think it's real. I think it existed.
You do?
And yeah, when I hear Atlantis, it's almost like America, almost. Like it could have been a like the America thousands of years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't think that this is the first time we've had technology on the planet. I think there's been many civilizations with many different types of technologies and capabilities, and I think Atlantis definitely existed.
Like the common idea about it is that it was almost like in a bubble on the earth floor, and that they didn't really necessarily live in water. They lived in a bubble with air.
Well, from what I know is that it was on land and it got brought down. There was some type of
that's my understanding.
Destruction that brought the civilization down.
That it was an island, and I'm going to throw this out there. Mm-hmm. There's maps out there that show Antarctica without ice on it. Right? It actually shows the coastline. It shows the entire island of Antarctica without any ice on it whatsoever.
Right.
Now, the general idea has always been that Antarctica went underwater, right? But what is ice? It's water.
Right. Right.
Maybe Antarctica is Atlantis. Don't know, but you start thinking about the context that nobody's allowed to claim Antarctica. There's only research going on there. What are they researching? I don't know. You don't ever hear about any of these updates to these researches. But I'll take it one step further than what Grillz said. I believe in Atlantis, and I also believe that I once lived there in a past life. I don't think I was one of the higher beings, but I definitely have a feeling inside of me that I once existed amongst a higher civilization. Unfortunately, under the lower rung, but that's my gut instinct on it.
That's interesting. That's it, and that could be my last one. Back to Grillz. Do you feel like you're a reincarnation or something?
I think it's very possible.
Yeah?
I think it's very possible because I think there's so much about religion that's been hidden from us. That's obviously another show.
Yeah.
But they've been hiding stuff about the Bible and religion. And I think that there's absolutely a possibility that we could all be living past lives. And instead of going to heaven, there's a good point. Everybody passes away, no matter who it is. Everybody always says, "Oh, they're with Jesus now. They're in heaven now." And I've been to so many funerals where the pastor is saying how so and so is up there with God now. They're with the Heavenly Father. Meanwhile, so and so didn't even believe in God and all that. Yeah. But the priest said that he's in heaven. You said it, right? Is everybody in heaven? When everybody dies, right? Everybody's friends, family, everybody. Everybody always says, "Oh, they're with Jesus now," or "They're in a better place," right? If they're not religious, they say, "Well, they're in a better place." How do we know?
Right.
How do you know? Right. When has anybody ever even looked at anything spiritual? Anything besides Facebook, people dancing on TikTok? How does anybody know what's going on? How do you know?
Right.
So I think that we need to start really tapping into our spiritual side.
It's interesting because before when you were talking about paranormal and now, you talk about religion a little bit, to me, those two intermix.
Definitely.
Because, the paranormal side of it almost, and to a certain degree, validates what religion tries to say is true.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Well,
because if it didn't validate it, they would be at odds all the time. But actually, one validates the other one.
Or they use the paranormal experiences to validate whatever information they're trying to push onto people.
Well, I'm just saying, just real quick, I don't want to get crazy on this, and y'all could do your own research. But, what do you call that when a priest has to come over and do rituals to get,
an exorcism.
Yeah, like an exorcism. Those are real.
Right, absolutely.
You can go and look and watch real exorcisms that have happened. You know what I'm saying? Whether you believe they're staged or not is one thing. You know what I mean? But go watch 100 of them. One of them is real. I'm telling you. You know what I mean? And to me, like, that's the whole paranormal meets religion thing. I mean, that's the collision right there.
They are definitely,
you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So that's just food for thought for when we get on that topic. We're definitely, because we have the Bibles in right here. We're going to get to that, you know.
And I have a respect for the Bible. I have a respect for God, for what created,
of course.
what I believe is the creator of everything. Now, I do believe in that, but I don't think it's so simple that you die, you go right to heaven, or you go right to, I think that there's much more to it. What if we get sent back here when we die? What if we just keep reincarnating over and over and over again?
Well, right. The whole idea about, you
right?
live 12 different times, so you can live as the 12 different,
What
signs.
if you're supposed to figure this stuff out to get to God? What if it's a test, and when you cross over the other side, God says, nope, you didn't know anything. You never read anything. No, you got to turn around and try again. Right? Maybe life is not, maybe we're not supposed to just come here and just live and just do right or wrong and make mistakes and have a family and then you die and I think no, you're not even playing the full game. You're playing on the beginner level. You're not even playing you're not even really playing the games like somebody playing a video game and they're stuck there. They spend their whole life on the first level.
That's a good
True.
analogy.
It's true.
Monster, just to touch on this and we won't stay long on it, but I definitely want to just start the conversation because people when they start researching this stuff, it's going to get crazy. But when we talk about spells and words and then in relation to music, right? We touched on it last week about the whole thing about you'll get stuck on a song that you don't even like and you're singing it. But we also talked about how the music kind of sets the tone for how our youth is going to act and what they're going to strive for.
That's exactly right.
You know what I'm saying? So elaborate a little bit on that with me.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in pop culture that's taken hold in the last couple of years is that when a bigger, what we'll call a mainstream artist that's already established, I don't want to call anybody out in particular,
Right.
but, like the bigger artists, like a Lady Gaga or somebody like that. What they'll do is they'll have a new single and they'll play it every hour on the hour on every
Several
pop
times.
radio station. And you could listen to the song the first time and be like, oh, I don't like that. Change the station, 30 minutes later you hear it again. You're like, I don't really care for it. But 2 days later, you're asking your friend, hey, can you throw that on? Did you get that yet? Have you heard that yet?
Right.
And go back and look at the messaging in those songs that are pushed. It's not happy-go-lucky type of shit. It's meant to suppress you, and that's what goes back to the cursing and putting the curses on you. And it's so subliminal, and that's why people dismiss it out of hand, like, oh, these guys are fucking wackadoodles. Like, what are they even talking about? But you know what? You're not the one creating the music. I've been a music creator in my lifetime. I know the purpose behind creating music and what goes into that. And it's not haphazard. It's not by accident.
Right.
Me and you created songs. We knew exactly what we were doing. We had concepts. We went out and created the music and the songs to that level.
Right.
Now, these people are purposely doing the same thing, but they're doing it to manipulate you.
Right.
The last episode we put up the images of the triangles and the worship of Saturn. It's all that kind of stuff is related because it gets melted back into the symbols and the symbology of everything. And it goes back to, then it relates to the words that are being spoken in the music. And then they put out the $2 million music videos that have the imagery that go along with it.
Yeah, it's crazy to me when you think about it like that, like a mass way to affect, the people that you want to infect with that. It seems so easy through music.
It is.
That's the crazy part to me, Grillz. So what's your take when it comes to that specifically? Because I know you have a lot to say about this.
Well, I think that it's obviously an easy way to get into the minds of the youth because they love music.
Right.
And, what better way? And like Monster said, if you really read the lyrics from a lot of the songs that are on the radio, they're not really good lyrics. They're not very positive or uplifting that you know, is going to make your child feel good about themselves.
Right.
So
It's not Bob Marley.
Right.
'cause they
not
killed
at
him.
all.
Right.
Right. But it should be though. And you know, people want to say, you know, if somebody's going to call us nut jobs or whack jobs, you know, that's like somebody in a mental institution trying to say something like that to me. I mean, if I walked into a nut house and everybody in the nut house is crazy, you know, me, you, and Monster, we all go to take a trip to the nut house, to the insane asylum. Everybody there is crazy. They are all out of their minds. They don't know anything of what's really going on. They are absolutely insane. Now here, we come walking in, and they look at us like we're the crazy ones. They've never heard of us before. They never heard of these things. Maritime law, United States company, aliens, and Illuminati. Oh, I've never heard of these things. It must be crazy. You guys must be conspiracy theorists. But you know, I'm looking around and these people are absolutely crazy. They have no idea where anything comes from. They're not very well educated. And I'm looking like, who are you to call us crazy?
Right.
You know, who are you? And that's what it seems like to me. You know, that's a point that even Jordan Maxwell has brought up. You know, there's a man named Aaron Russo that did a documentary called Mad as Hell. And he's up there showing how, you know, these guys, these presidents, they go up and they sign all these bills and executive orders. Half the time, they're not even reading it. He's showing how there's tons of, you know, I mean, there's like pages and pages and pages. There's no way these guys are reading half the stuff they're signing. He even says they don't even know what it says. You know, and it's insane. And I suggest people go look up Aaron Russo, Mad as Hell. And, you know, it's insane, man. There's a lot going on.
But when they passed the Patriot Act, I remember specifically the senator saying, there's no time to read it. We have to pass it. 9/11 just happened. There's no time to read it. By the time people got done reading this thing 6 months later, they realized our rights were flushed right down the toilet. Before anybody even... It was voted on before anybody even read it. You know, and that's, again, done on purpose. You know, I mean, because they could just surmise the damn thing into 3 pages. This is what it means. But, you know...
Why do that?
Why
would they do that? Why would they make it simple for you?
I agree.
If they put it into layman terms for us, there would be an uprising, I think.
Take another example of this is, not to get off track, but like the terms of agreement for anything that you would go online for. You have to scroll it like for a half a second or 30 seconds just to get to the bottom to say okay. Nobody's reading that. They're scrolling to the bottom to click okay, but once you click okay, you're agreeing to every single thing, and it's written by a lawyer. Why can't it just be like 4 lines? Like, hey, we own you and you're screwed, but we're going to give it to you for free, so don't worry about it. Like Facebook.
That's what I'm saying. They put it in layman terms, there'd be an uproar. You know, like, the one thing we love to do on this show, right, is encourage people to comment below. Make sure you subscribe. But on top of that, you know, we want people to make sure that they're doing their own research. They're showing their friends and family this show, that we are not sitting here just saying, oh, there's so many conspiracies and we're all going to die one day. That's not what we're saying. We are actually getting into the why, right?
Correct.
So the why is conspiracy, right? So for me, I usually ask you guys, but I'm going to say my thoughts on it, on why this is all happening. Why is there, you know, everything we talked about, you know, the U.S. being a company, you know what I mean? Physical ownership of our bodies, right? Different ways to try to control our minds, right? Things like that. Words and spells. Why? I'll tell you why. And it all comes down to what I always say. Money and depopulation. But everything has to do with, in my opinion, right? Money and depopulation. Somebody wants all the power. That somebody says money is power, knowledge is power, right? And we are all slaves to that right now. So that's why they put messages into the music for the youth to go crazy, to start killing a bunch of people, because good, one of them could take out 20 of them, and then we're going to put that one away, and that's 21 dead, perfect, right? And this one does that, and this one does that, and this one does that. Now we're rocking and rolling. We got thousands out of the way right now, and we putting people into the little system that we have going on that we make tons of money on. Let's not talk about the prisons and how they actually generate money, right? We're not going to talk about that, right? Let's talk about getting to the people and telling the people, hey, You could do whatever you want, to Marshall's point. Do whatever you want. You're totally free until you go against my terms of agreement.
Right.
See, I have a problem because the problem is that now that I have a daughter and I have children in my life, stuff like that, you know, they have channels on YouTube that purposely target young kids. They look like they're video games, and when you start watching it, they're doing rituals, they're doing drugs. Now, those are fine. The YouTube leads all of that up.
Start them early.
Now, how come they are banning David Icke?
Right. Right.
I can go watch a ritual. I can watch somebody get their head. I mean, listen, go watch a Lady Gaga music video. I mean, it's disgusting. They're banning David Icke. Why aren't they banning these satanic, disgusting videos?
They don't want people to know what David
They got
Icke is
kids
saying.
being abused, and you got all these allegations. You know, in the movies, it's a joke. They're not being banned. How come you got people, you know, saying the craziest things in the world? You know, on television, you know, in these movies, and this man's being banned and censored. There's the censorship of an opinion.
Right.
There's certain things you can't advertise on Facebook. You know, so if people think that there's not a censorship and that we're not starting to you know, lose the freedom of speech, better think again. And to me, that's very important. Once they start banning people, and you got the satanic Bible out there, you ain't banning that.
Right.
You're not banning that. So everything nowadays is 666. Why isn't that being banned? Because obviously that represents evil, satanic. That's harmful to children. Anybody that supports or that Lucifer or Satan is an idiot, because obviously that's abusive towards children. It's obviously abusive towards anybody. It's negative. It's not, you know, it's not anything positive. You know, so you know, these people are sick, but they're not being banned. Why?
It's a great question. That's why we are here, brother, to talk about it. So, Monster Man, take us home today. Put a little top on this one, a little bow.
Just a little cherry of what Grillz was just saying is, and to bring it back to the corporations, I think, is that what it comes down to, is the total control of you as a person to move society forward in the way that they want to shape it. You know, we talked about the Event 201 videos, which came out right before the pandemic, which pretty much are blueprint for what has happened. And these things came out before the pandemic happened in China, right? All the various other things that we have discussed concerning the secret societies, they're all related. It all relates to what we've discussed today. And to crack the code on this, all you have to do is research yourself. You know, I mean, I want to say some things, but they sound fantastical, so I hold back because I want people to go out and actually look up, you know, the idea. When did the United States move off of the idea that gold backs money and silver backs money? Because what is a dollar worth?
Right.
I mean, you know, they just all gave everybody $1,200, and people are like, well, how are they going to afford to pay for that? They're going to print the money.
Right.
Because it's not, when they moved off of that and became a corporation, they're trading your numbers on the stock exchange. This is not a joke, okay? This is what the deficit is, okay? They borrowed this money to pay Peter, Paul, and Mary, you know, for the nuclear missiles, for the aircraft carriers and stuff, which, by the way, nobody ever asks about how much that stuff costs.
Right.
I mean, who out there knows how much an aircraft carrier costs? Right. But we've got like a dozen of them flown around. And you know what? If there was a war, those things are like moving targets. You know what I mean? One missile takes that out. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's all part of the game, you know? And so it goes back to the universal code. And what you were saying is, why did they do this? They did it for the commerciality of it, for capitalism, so that everything could be uniform across the world and that all of these things could transact, so that if we wanted to, we could sell this show to a guy in Japan right now. And everything, even though we don't speak the same language, we speak the same language of commerce. You know, this is what it costs. This is what we're selling to you. We give it to you. You give us the money. Now, that sounds like a very basic concept, but when it never existed before, you have to put this into play, and that's what these people did. So now they think that they control and own us, and that's really what it comes back to, what Grillz was saying, you know, is that pay attention, learn about these things so you can get ahead of the curve. And you know what? Quite frankly, I'm going to be honest. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, just
I mean,
put yourself in the know. That's all.
There's ideas about suing for your sovereignty and all this stuff. Hey, okay, that's great. You know, there's also a thing which is in this book here, Behold the Pale Horse, called The Story of Jonathan May. And the basic gist of it was that he was passed down a document in his family that he wasn't really sure what it was until he brought it to a lawyer. And what it was the King of England had declared his family a trust, right? Which was basically the same exact thing that the Federal Reserve is based off of. So he started issuing money and credit in his name. And the certificates were actually in a truck, and he was riding along with them. And it's assumed that it was somebody from the United States government, but it's never known. They stopped the truck, they took him, and that he was never seen again. Here's a man with a document from a king that says he has sovereignty, just like the Federal Reserve was going to create his own money, and they disappeared his ass without anybody even thinking twice about it, because this is the system that they built, and there's no way that they're giving it up to anybody else. The man who wrote this book is dead now.
Oh, yeah.
They killed him the same year that he told everybody, guess what? The government, I don't know what they're planning on doing, but they're going to use Osama bin Laden as a scapegoat. He told the United States this in a radio broadcast in January of that year. September 11th happened, and he was killed 2 months later in a shootout with the authorities because he was wanted for tax evasion. I mean, is it worth taking somebody's life because they owe taxes?
That's some story, huh? Grillz, he brought us home. Let's take in the groceries and wrap this up, man.
Well, I think that the sovereign community might not be too street smart because, you know, once you figure out these things and you find out about sovereignty and what that means and the Uniform Commercial Code, a lot of people try to go to court and not pay anything and all that, and they try to rebel against. The problem is you're going up against a Saturnian cult from the old world that is mixed in with business, with you know, these bankers that set up everything we have, from our police departments to our courthouses, our judges. So they're all connected to each other. They all kind of wash the other man's hand, right? So, you know, there's right ways of doing things and there's wrong ways. But at the same time, knowledge is power. And the more you know about everything, you know, all these different subjects, all these different topics, you know, just knowing about one thing, you know, it's not going to really help us the way it would as if we had all of the information.
Sure.
And connecting the dots is really a big part of this. And I think that once you start to connect the dots and you start to see how all of these different conspiracies or, you know, problems, I like to call them problems because, you know, that's what they are. But you start to see that these things are all connected. And instead of calling everything a conspiracy or, you know, just brushing everything under the rug, let's address these issues for what they are. You know, and that's my opinion. Let's continue with the unity. And if we're right, you know, then we're in trouble. If we're wrong, then I guess we'll be okay, right? But if we're right, then we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, you know. I encourage you, go read up on it on your own. Comment below. Let us know what you think. We'll be back next time with episode 8. This was episode 7. So for Monster, for Grillz, I am Gabriel. Finally TV. Why is Conspiracy? Let's go.